have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Hum.
I'm Ann Northrup. And
my running mate.
I've already done that. I don't need to do that again.
That's right. Ann was a vice presidential candidate.
On the ticket in Tennessee, came in like 20th.
20th in the country.
Yes.
Yes.
Enough.
Enough. Well, of course, and in the news this week, as you probably know by now,
I should hope so.
The Democratic vice presidential nominee, Governor Tim Walz, was once a high school teacher, football coach, and faculty advisor to his school's LGBTQ student group, but we're going to let Kamala Harris tell it.
Now, it's my understanding that his name is pronounced Walz.
Walz, didn't I say Walz?
You sort of said Waltz, I think.
No, I'm saying it's Walz.
It is Walz.
Let's go to the videotape.
Too early. Second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, headlined a Fire Island Pines fundraiser for the Harris campaign.
A record-setting one. Ron DeSantis keeps on losing court cases over his anti-LGBTQ laws in Florida.
You'd think he'd get tired of that. But a Maine school board did a brilliant thing in reversing a discriminatory policy.
We'll talk about the scandal at GLAAD.
Shocking. A gay waiter in Kansas got no tip and was slurred on the receipt, but the bigoted customer paid a price.
Gay Major League Baseball executive and former player Billy Beane has died at the age of 60.
Really sad, 60.
Leukemia.
Amazing. Yeah. There have been multiple LGBTQ winners at the Olympics. We'll give you the latest on their medal totals and their place in the standings as a team, not just a fantasy team. But the right wing is taunting cisgender women boxers as men.
They never quit. UK activist Peter Tatchell is honored at the National Portrait Gallery.
We will remember an HIV/AIDS pioneer.
And I'll give you my review of the provocative new film about gay sex work, Sebastian.
Well, again, it's been a really crazy few days. Tim Walz.
Tim Walz makes me happy. Let's look at the happy warriors. There they are in Philadelphia. Look at them. I mean, you don't see these kinds of expressions out of Glum and Glummer, Trump and Vance.
Well, you occasionally see a sneer on the Trump's face. That's
they say
it.
They've never seen Trump laugh.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you. I remain cautiously optimistic. No one's perfect. I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop, but I really think this was a visionary choice by Harris.
We all have a lot of work to do to make it happen in all parts of the country, but I'm happy to see the polls trending in the correct direction, including even in New York, where you expect to win anyway, but the lead is being expanded, which is encouraging, because that's encouraging for taking back the House.
Because when it looked like Biden was going to be the nominee, people got depressed. And
weren't doing anything except saying, I'll vote for him if I have to.
And maybe not even that. But the energy that has been injected into this campaign by first Kamala Harris and now Tim Walz is astonishing.
So they go to Philadelphia for this rally where Vice President Harris introduces Mr. Walz, Governor Walz, and here is what one of the things she chose to say about him.
Was approached by a student in his social studies class. The young man was one of the first openly gay students at the school and was hoping to start a gay-straight alliance. At a time when acceptance was difficult to find for LGBTQ students, Tim knew the signal that it would send to have a football coach get involved. A safe place for everybody. In the high school yearbook, the students voted Coach Walz the, quote, most inspiring faculty member.
And it wasn't just gay kids who felt safer. Lots of kids felt safer.
We'll get to that in a second. I want to note Harris's being conversant with the language.
Yes.
Gay-straight alliance rolls right off her tongue. And
right.
I saw someone else.
Comfort levels.
Yes, but knowledge and experience and comfort. I saw someone else, and I think it was a senator, and I don't want to guess who it was, but someone talking about this and saying, and just mangling the whole phrase
Sure.
of gay-straight alliance, said something about, and they wanted to put together some organization that would make, some students feel better. And I thought, come on, it's 2024. But I see Kamala up there saying gay-straight alliance right off the tongue, no hesitation, and knowing
Well, she's a San Francisco liberal.
She is. Well, but as J.D. Vance says, Tim Walz is a West Coast wannabe. Is that the best you can do,
Such
JD?
a clever guy. Well, let's go back.
We'll get to him.
Let's go back to Mankato West High School. Mankato West High School, which is where
I'm half Minnesotan.
the Walz family taught.
My whole father's family is from Minnesota.
Okay.
I grew up hearing stories of Lake Minnetonka.
And you can say it right.
I can.
So here we're going to hear from Jacob Raytan, who was a student there in the late 1990s, about his experience with the Walzes.
So Gwen was my former teacher. Tim was not, but Tim helped to start the Gay Straight Alliance. But I can tell you a story about Gwen as a teacher. I came out, I was the first openly gay student at Mankato West High School, and I came out in 1999. In 1997, though, I had a class with Gwen Walz. She taught English literature. And on the first day of class, she stood up and said that this was a safe place for LGBT students. It meant the world to me. I had never heard a teacher from the front of the classroom talk about gay and lesbian issues. My heart was literally beating out of my chest. And so when I came out 2 years later, the first person I told was a friend, the second person I told was my sister, and the third person I told was Gwen Walz. Both Tim and Gwen were incredibly supportive of their gay students. And they modeled values of inclusivity and respect. That helped not just me. I was bullied in high school. It helped not just me, but it also, I think, helped the bully. It showed the bully a better path forward. And I can think of no one better than Tim Walz to show that better path forward for America. We have had with President Trump a bully president. It's a one-act show with this president, and all he knows how to do is the politics of the bully. And Tim Walz will show us a better way forward. He's been showing and modeling that better way forward for me all the way back to 1997.
Stand up to bullies with your vote.
Judy Shepard, creator of the Matthew Shepard Foundation, pointed out that in 2011, 13 years ago, they gave Governor Walz, maybe then Representative Walz, Representative Walz, the Making a Difference Award because of his great work for students.
One of the things I was very impressed with, of course, he's famous for winning a Republican district in 2006 when he got elected to the U.S. House.
Next to Michelle Bachmann's, he likes to point out.
And that year, he was asked where he stood on same-sex marriage, which was not a resolved issue at that point. And I was running in a conservative district. He's got the support of the NRA. But he said, I could not look my kids at the high school in the eye if I didn't stand up and say, I'm for same-sex marriage. So he has figured out a way to talk about progressive issues to the general public, the American
honestly,
public. Yes.
And directly and simply.
Unapologetically.
Well, and because, as we understand, and I'm sure all of you do too, when you talk about these issues directly and simply, they become what they are, which is sensible and reasonable and with great values. And so he has latched onto that. Now, he also later rejected the support of the NRA when he
and gave all the money back
after Parkland, after the shooting. And David Hogg, the great activist who was a survivor of the shooting at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, has been his great cheerleader, Walz's cheerleader, for a long time. And I think one of the first things that made me think that Walz was a serious candidate for this office was when I saw David Hogg on TV talking about how much he loved Tim Walz and how much he was supporting him for this job. And he's now been going back on TV. He's raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for him. He says, I cannot stop grinning. I'm so happy.
And there's, on so many issues on trans kids in sports, he's been there. On trans access to public bathrooms, he's been there. On discussing LGBTQ issues in schools, he's been there. On discrimination protections, he's there as governor.
For trans kids and declaring Minnesota a sanctuary state when other states started passing laws that forbade care for trans kids and no conversion therapy.
Exactly, and for gender-affirming care. So,
and I also am very impressed that his lieutenant governor in Minnesota, who will take over if he is elected to the vice presidency, is Peggy Flanagan, who is a Native American organizer and activist. And she does training of politicians. And she trained him when he was first going to run for office. And he put her on his ticket as lieutenant governor. And she is the lieutenant governor of Minnesota.
And she will be the first Native American governor in the history of the United States of America.
Exactly.
This country that we took over from them.
And the first female governor of Minnesota. He also, they're going after him for the riots after George Floyd's murder and saying he didn't step in fast enough. But Al Sharpton tells the story of talking to him when this happened and saying, watch out for the local DA, because he's saying things like, we can't prosecute the cops. And Walz listened to Reverend Sharpton and talked to Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota, who's a very progressive and sometimes provocative politician who was in Congress and now is the Attorney General of Minnesota, and said to Keith Ellison, I want you to take jurisdiction here and to make sure that justice is done. And he did. And now Keith Ellison is all over TV supporting Tim Walz.
And of course, Vance attacked Walz for letting convicted felons who have served their time regain their voting rights. Now, of course, that's not very considerate of your running mate, JD.
How about convicted felons who have not yet served their time? Do they get to vote?
And, everybody was getting into the act with these phone calls and things for Kamala Harris. But the oldest, and there were seniors doing it this weekend, but former President Jimmy Carter says, there's a picture of him at his wife's funeral, says his fondest wish is to get to vote for Kamala Harris. He turns 100 on October 1st. Early voting starts in Georgia on October 15th. He won the Nobel Prize in 2002. He's been in hospice care since February 2023, which is kind of a record.
You're only supposed to go into hospice care
for a month.
You're within 6 months.
Within 6 months,
yes.
But, Yeah.
Well, my fear is that now Trump is going to say, oh, sure, they're going to let Jimmy Carter vote, and then he'll be dead before the election. And once again, the Democrats will be having dead people vote. That's just my
Well,
little thing.
and let's not forget our president, Joe Biden. He had a great week of getting the hostages out of Russia, but he had a brief exchange with reporters after he went to the funeral of Sheila Jackson Lee in Texas and celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act as well. And he was asked about his legacy, and he spoke about a bunch of issues, including LGBTQ rights. He said, "I'm really proud of my position. I was the first guy to come out for gay marriage."
Well,
He says, "Remember that little problem with the Obama administration?"
Yes, we
A little
do.
dig at Barack there
Yes.
for getting him out, pushing
Yes.
him aside, I think.
yes, I think so. And he may never speak to Pelosi again.
I know.
And one more note about.
But we love him for what
we
he did.
do, with reservations, but I'll never forgive him for Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas. But Kamala, another
He
thing.
didn't vote for Clarence Thomas. He didn't handle
He
the hearings
was
well.
running the
I know.
Judiciary
All
Committee
right.
hearings and didn't let Anita Hill testify as she
I
should
agree.
have.
I agree.
And he talked about what a pal Clarence Thomas was.
God.
But Kamala, a year ago, was in Ghana on a diplomatic mission as the vice president, expected to discuss a lot of trade issues and stuff. And she gets up at a press conference with the president of Ghana, and the press says, "So what about this bill that's working its way through the parliament in Ghana about criminalizing homosexuality and imposing the death penalty or whatever?" And she doesn't duck it. She says, "I think it's terrible. We totally disagree with Ghana on this, and this should not happen." And it delayed passage of the bill.
Eventually it passed.
Yeah.
Well, they were out for Kamala on Fire Island at the Pines. They had a fundraiser out there hosted by Andy Tobias, the out gay former treasurer of the Democratic Party, and headlined by the first second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, and Chasten Buttigieg, whose husband, as of then, was still being considered as Harris's running mate, which would have given him the opportunity to be the second gentleman. They raised $321,000, breaking a record set by Cher on Fire Island when she raised $200,000 for Hillary Clinton.
Well, I'm glad that, and this was right around the time that we were hearing about Biden stepping aside too.
Yes.
So again, it's experience with our people, our issues, an ease of conversation, and it gives you a great warm feeling of confidence
Now,
that they can
among
handle us.
other names, and Trump is struggling with names for Vice President Harris, now calling her a radical trans activist. This was the week that he said she was Asian before she was black. Next, he'll be saying she was a man before she was a woman.
He's calling her Kamala.
It's pathetic.
The whole thing at the NABJ.
Well, Vance once said Democrats want to bring immigrants into the United States to turn them transgender. Yet he's the man wearing eyeliner. Now, take a look at these pictures, folks. That's a before and after picture. I mean, that's scare drag there on the right.
Yes, it is.
That's what it is.
Well, he's scary on every single point.
Oh, my God.
And more and more of his writings and his texts and emails are coming out. And I read something this week where he talks about the problem with the Republicans is when they get power, they don't use it strongly enough. They should be crushing everybody.
He worships people like Franco in Spain.
Still dead.
Yes. Pinochet in Chile. These are their role models, of course, Orban in Hungary. But these dictators, these are the ones who know how to use power and kill people.
Well, and they talk about, Project 2025, that's dead, that's off the table.
It's
Nonsense.
very much alive and ill.
Yeah.
Of course, Trump lies and says he knows nothing about it, calls it a lunatic project.
Please.
And that is true, but the lunatics who wrote it are all your people. 31 of the 38 people responsible for the project served in Trump's first administration.
And they're going to serve in the next one, and they're going to be hiring all the I want to say, I won't, but the Trump loyalists who will not question anything and will just be saying, yes, sir, how much lower would you like me to go?
It is nice to see that half of the people who served as cabinet members for Trump are refusing to endorse him. Only 3 are saying are actually openly opposing him, but half of them say they will not
Well,
endorse
they're
him.
not being secret about anything. And he goes to the National Association of Black Journalists convention, and it couldn't be more overt in his racism, and which I saw as very deliberate signaling to his base that, yes, I am still a racist. And
I think he did use the N-word back then when she's denying.
I think he's still using it.
I think he did. And I think it may, given how he's losing his faculties, we call him Don Old now. No, we're older people, and
some say he's in his fat Elvis stage.
We struggle sometimes. Look, black pastors are speaking out about Project 2025, including out gay Bishop Joseph W. Tolton, who said Dominionist Christians are waging a war against black bodies, resources, and the claim of reparations. And it goes on and on. So they're all getting together on this.
I am thrilled at the extent to which this conversation is out in the public, and the Trump and Vance team are revealing
Yes, but every
themselves.
time the New York Times writes about it, which Mr. Trump says he has nothing to do with, Mr. Trump, is trying to distance himself from.
Yeah.
Don't let him. We're not letting him here on Gay USA.
I'm getting very fed up with the New York Times.
All
More later.
Okay, enough on the Trump, Vance, Harris, Walz.
Yeah, other politics.
Okay, slipped my attention, but out Colorado Governor Jared Polis, here with Kamala Harris, is the new chair of the National Governors Association.
Yeah, that happened about a month ago.
That's a breakthrough.
He also made a crack about, well, if she's looking for a gay, balding Jew to be the vice president, here I am. Yeah. Well, he's also a dad and a husband. He would be a great vice president.
And he has been a viewer of this show over the years. We were told.
Well, I think he's doing a great job in Colorado, and they have just the right wing has failed to get enough signatures to put 30 anti-trans referenda on the November ballot in Colorado.
They must be getting lazy. They leave the Trump rallies early.
Yes, they do.
They get me out of here. He talks for 90 minutes.
Well, I thought the
I couldn't do an hour without Ann here, or Marin, or Chris Cooper.
And Marin's here next week. You're off, and Marin will be here next week. Shapiro, Harris, and Walz each spoke for about 20 minutes yesterday, and I thought that was a little long.
No, but that's what you got to do.
10 would be better.
Less is more.
Yeah.
Now, we only do the show once a week, so we give you 58 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, let's go over some of we had some primaries this week in Washington State. Emily Randall won the primary for a U.S. House seat in the 6th District. She would be the first out LGBTQ Latina elected to the House if she wins in November.
She's currently a state senator in Washington, and the Victory Fund is behind her. That's one of their things, little posters. The Victory Fund is the organization that supports exclusively LGBTQ candidates. And I think they do a great job. So.
They're technically nonpartisan, but they've almost got I think they don't have any Republicans to support anymore.
Over the years
they did in the past, sure.
Steve Gunderson,
well,
maybe.
Sure.
Yeah.
Some Republicans used to be different.
It's not that we don't want them, it's just that they don't make themselves appealing.
Right.
So other Victory Fund candidates have been winning primaries in the last week. They're winning primaries for many different offices all across the United States.
In Arizona, you've got 3 to tell you about. Annalise Ortiz for the Arizona State Senate, switching to Oscar de los Santos for the Arizona State House, and Lupe Conchas for Glendale City Council. They won contested primaries and pulled off big wins.
So if you want to see what LGBTQ candidates are running in your area that you might be inclined to help, or anywhere in the United States, check out victoryfund.org and get educated on all these people.
I'll put that on the show note, and if you want to get our emails, go to gayusatv.org and sign up.
And these people are important in office. We talked last week about the Senate passing the Kids Online Safety Act, which we were leery of because we fear it would allow censorship of LGBTQ material online.
Yeah.
Well, the House killed it. It turns out it was a Marsha Blackburn bill. There's enough to the Tennessee senator, who is scary.
Very, very far right.
Yeah, so there's your indication of.
And I was encouraged to see a poll about New York that our ERA, which would cover sexual orientation and gender identity, sex, of course, primarily, and reproductive rights, is now winning in the polls 60-32. But there will be a right-wing campaign against it that you're going to see in New York saying it's all about trans rights. So watch out.
In other state news, in Alabama, we thought we had a great victory. Trump-appointed judge, of all people,
There she is, Anne Marie Axon.
Was one of the few in the country who upheld Biden's attempt to expand Title IX coverage to trans students. And students and parents and teachers had showed up to testify about this. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong story.
Well, it's harassment against LGBTQ students, you know.
So the judge was quite adamant, wrote a very fierce opinion about
122 pages.
about how wrong discrimination was and how right Biden was to expand these protections. But within moments, the Court of Appeals above her overruled her and said the Biden rules
better news in
cannot go into
Ohio. An
effect.
Ohio school district has the right to enforce its trans-inclusive anti-bullying policy, according to a decision handed down by the 6th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in a 2-1 decision in Olentangy Local School District. Their anti-bullying policy says it does not violate the First Amendment.
Well, I assume this is a different Ohio court, lifted an injunction on an anti-trans bill. The trans plaintiffs in that case will appeal.
In Louisiana, Governor Jeff Landry has a suggestion for parents who don't believe the Ten Commandments should be displayed in the classrooms, public school classrooms. Tell your child not to look at them.
Wow.
And then Florida, Ron DeSantis keeps on losing. Federal judge overturned Florida's restrictions on gender-affirming care for state employees, referring to the insurance program in the state as facially discriminatory. So that was a great victory.
Oh, that's nice. But in Utah, the state has announced a ban on 13 books from school classrooms and libraries. The new
What
law
books?
there says, I'll get to that in 1 second, says that if a book has been banned in a certain number of districts or counties, then the statewide ban goes into effect.
When are they going to start having bonfires with these books?
Very soon, I'm sure. One of the banned 13, aside from a Judy Blume book, and is a book called Tilt by Ellen Hopkins, and it's the story of teenagers facing various issues in their lives, including 2 teen boys who have a romance. One of them is HIV positive, and that's just too much for Utah. That's banned.
Isn't there something in the Book of Mormon we could object to? I haven't read the Book of Mormon. I saw the
Nor
play, though.
I.
I saw the musical, though.
I do watch The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I'm sure they will be outraged by this in the next season.
The Massachusetts Senate voted no, there's some Republicans there. They voted unanimously for a bill to add protections for LGBTQ parents and families. It's called the Massachusetts Parentage Act, which increases protection for queer families that use surrogacy and assisted reproduction. So all that's, it changes terms. Instead of mothers and fathers, it removes things like that. It takes out terms like out of wedlock pregnancy. And of course, their lesbian governor, Maura Healey, said she will sign the bill.
She was on TV this morning smiling ear to ear about the Harris Walz ticket.
Don't get overconfident.
I'm not. I'm excited. A nice story from Maine. Lincoln County, Maine, which is between Portland and Augusta, right in here. A little rural. they had a conservative school board there that repealed LGBTQ protections. And this is where students, parents, and teachers showed up by the scores to testify. They had a hearing that lasted past midnight, but the school board would not back down. So one of the moms, Leah Ships, ran for school board as a write-in candidate.
Mother of 2 kids.
Yep. 5 days in an election, 5 days after that school board meeting, she won. The whole town mobilized to get her elected. And now, with her on the school board, they have overturned the conservative board's ruling and reinstated protections.
9-6.
Grassroots activism. That's what we need for all of this.
Of course, the policy would have required school staff to address a student by the names and pronouns they use at school. It also permits students to use the restrooms and locker rooms that must closely matches their gender identity. These are the things that they put back into place.
All right, I have a lead in here that's going to turn out to be ironic. The Jim Henson Company announced that it will not partner with Chick-fil-A because of their homophobia.
Good.
They are taking some grant that was given to them, the Muppets, and they said, we're going to give it to GLAAD.
Okay, there's your segue.
Yes.
Well, you may have, this was a front page story in the Times. I mean, above the fold, lavish spending at a top LGBTQ nonprofit. Front page of the Times, and then 2 pages spread inside.
Huge.
About the spending of the CEO, Sarah Kate Ellis. We got a picture of her there. She's been there since like 2014. She certainly raised the budget. It's $30 million, but a lot of it seems to be going into her pocket.
Well, she has a very large salary in at least the mid-hundreds of thousands. She travels a lot and travels first class.
Well, she goes first class, which is really inappropriate for a nonprofit, completely. I mean, it's just against the rules, and yet they allow her to do that. I mean, isn't business class enough? I thought I did. What do you call it?
Economy plus.
And that was that was fantastic.
Yes.
But first class is like, that's for gillionaires.
Well, we don't know if there are any miles being used to finance any of this. So on the one hand, at first blush, this story looks outrageous, and that's why the Times did it and put it on the front page.
Well, as Mark Siegel, a veteran gay activist, said, what would you suggest if a politician used public tax funds to rent a 7-bedroom Swiss chateau, remodel their home with your tax dollars, rent a vacation
Chalet,
home?
not chateau.
Oh, well, that's what he wrote.
Yeah.
And rent a vacation home in Provincetown for their family and do all this kind of stuff. You would want them out of office.
And of course, GLAAD says this is all distorted, and she's raised tens of millions of dollars, and she travels all the time and should be, made comfortable as she travels. Now, look. I don't know where they got all their information. There's talk of let me get this right, the chief financial officer blew the whistle on this. The board hired lawyers to investigate
and took their names off the website.
Yes, and liberalized travel policies. That's what they...
Post hoc.
Yes, exactly. The CFO then left GLAAD. As the New York Times mentions a little, they are mad at GLAAD, which has been yelling at them for their trans coverage.
And the author of this article, Emily Steele, signed an open letter last year criticizing GLAAD and more than 100 other organizations and leaders who spoke out against the Times coverage of transgender people.
So there's a lot going on here, and without passing judgment on any of that, I will just say this, that... GLAAD was started by street activists who held demonstrations outside
journalists.
Yes.
Grassroots, no pay.
Exactly, and held demos at the New York Post and other places.
1985.
And like many LGBTQ organizations, it has evolved over the years from leadership by volunteer activists to paid bureaucratic people.
And very dependent. I mean, it's really not an honest broker because it gets all its funding from these dinners from the entertainment industry, which they're then honoring. So they're not exactly objective.
No, and I'm sure they have their favorites and whatever. But I will also say that GLAAD has put a lot of pressure on the mainstream entertainment and news media and has succeeded, I think, in increasing visibility of LGBTQ people and themes and issues in those venues. Now, were there other ways to do it? Could it have been done for less money? GLAAD's had a lot of turnover over the years. We've known a lot of people who work there. But it has become a big story.
Well, all nonprofits should be, when you get a tax deduction for making a donation to these things, other people are paying taxes to make up for that. So there's a public trust here. And one of the points of the New York Times article, and they consulted a lot of experts, is a lot of this stuff really crosses the line.
Does GLAAD need to be at Davos?
Well, they say yes. They play in the big leagues.
Well, that's pretty big. Anyway, we tell you about it to alert you to what's going on, not because we have any final answers on any of this.
Okay, wait a minute.
All right. In New York, there's a gay dad, Jose Roland, who is a blogger.
Yep.
Influencer, as they say.
Yes, he's an influencer.
Yeah.
We're trying to influence you out there, but, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't.
Well, we're trying to inform you, certainly, and hope that you will take action based on that. Anyway, he is suing a right-wing podcast host,
conspiracy guy,
Stewie Peters, who I'm happy to say I've never heard of, for defamation, because Stewie goes on the air and just throws out all this stuff. He calls this guy a pervert homo.
Accused him of criminal sexual conduct and calling for his public execution. Some pervert homo has access to at least 4 kids around the clock all the time.
He's a dad with kids.
This is just insane.
And of course, this has provoked many scary threats to Jose and his family. And so he said, I'm not going to ignore this. I'm going to sue the guy.
Using the New York civil rights law against bias-related intimidation.
As the Sandy Hook parents sued Alex Jones.
Get them.
Yeah.
We're going to have another example of that in international news.
Okay.
And then there's the waiter in Kansas. So he's serving the thing. This is his name, Noah Byrig, 19 years old, and Bubba's 33 in Wichita. So these guys, he hears these guys kind of laughing at him. He's got painted nails, so what? And when he gets the check, there's nothing written for the tip other than FAG. And so he posts this, as a friend of his posts this online, and the customer got really, laid into by people.
Good.
They found out who he was. He apologized. He said, "Oh, I'm sorry. It was really about bad service. I mean, this guy's just a." But so Noah does a sort of a
GoFundMe kind of thing.
Yeah, they do a GoFundMe thing, and he's raised a ton of money, at which he says he's giving to
Glisten.
That's what he's doing. Thousands of dollars were raised.
Glisten, the inventor of gay-straight alliances.
And Bubba's 33, this little restaurant in Wichita, is matching the donation to Glisten.
Good for you, Bubba 33. Thank you.
So some good has come out of an ugly incident.
Okay.
Be nice to your waiters, They can spit in your food.
That's an old line. All right.
It's true.
We are sorry to hear about the death of Billy Beane.
Very much.
A real hero. He was a Major League Baseball player for the Detroit Tigers, the LA Dodgers, the San Diego Padres. For about 6 years or so. He came out after he retired, and in fact, he did not go to his lover's funeral. He played a game instead because he was so scared of being outed.
But he came out in 1999, 3 years after he left his playing days, and he was at his death the only out current or former player who was gay. I mean, before that you had Glenn Burke, who died in 1995 and came out in 1982.
Shamefully treated.
Bean
by
wrote a
Facebook.
memoir called Going the Other Way in 2003 that became a national bestseller. So he joins the office of the commissioner, Bud Selig, in 2014. He became baseball's first ever ambassador for inclusion, focusing on player education, LGBTQ inclusion, and social justice. Promoted to vice president in 2017, adding anti-bullying efforts to his plate, and then became the senior vice president of DEI. Now, of course, this will be banned if Trump gets elected. Trump
Well, he would go around to teams and hold talks in locker rooms, as we would do in schools.
And in police precincts.
Yeah, excuse me.
It's all right. And he is survived, by the way, by his husband, Greg Baker.
Our sympathies to Greg. And then there's Walter Arlen. Walter Arlen just...
Now, this is a picture of him from 1943. He died last year at 103. We're just learning about this.
We are, because his surviving husband, Howard Myers, told us about him. Walter Arlen was in Germany, and he was a musician and a composer.
His family owned a big department store.
Yeah.
The Nazis come into Austria. They take over.
Austria, that's where he was.
When they annexed Austria.
Yeah.
And, he used to sing in the department store. He was very musical. So anyway, he became a music critic and late in life a composer of Holocaust and Jewish exile remembrance songs in song.
He and his husband were together for 65 years, and they got married in 2008 when Walter would have been 2008, 50, 88?
Well, it's never too late.
Maybe 87.
He reviewed music, and he devoted himself to the city's popular Monday evening concerts. He organized the music department at Loyola Marymount University, and he composed 65 works that are now being performed around the world.
Amazing story.
And then, when Daniel Ellsberg died last year, we paid tribute to the man who leaked the Pentagon Papers and hastened the end of the Vietnam War. We learned this week of the passing of the peace activist who inspired Ellsberg to do what he did, Randy Keller, who was 80. Ellsberg heard him speak at an anti-war conference in 1969 where Keller explained...
It's actually Keeler.
Keeler explained why he chose prison over military service, persuading Ellsberg, once an advisor to Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, to leak the damning Rand Corporation report on the futility of the Vietnam War. Ellsberg would always say, no Randy, say his name again?
Keeler.
Randy Keeler, no Pentagon Papers. He was active in the War Resistance League after, and the anti-nuke movement. The IRS seized his home because they wouldn't pay taxes over the war. I just want to give this quote, and this is one of the reasons I want to mention him. He said, don't ever assume that anything you do, particularly if it's an act of conscience, won't make a difference.
Exactly. And you have to live your life with those values and play them out every day without thinking about the consequences.
And Elon Musk's attacks on his daughter may hurt him in his custody case for his other kids because he's being so abusive to her. That's a good thing to hear.
All right, let's go to Paris and the Olympics.
Please.
Team LGBTQ, as we tape on Wednesday afternoon, has
drum roll, please.
24 medals and is in 9th place in the overall medal count. Now that's taking the out LGBTQ athletes on all the teams, 195 of them, and looking at their results, and we're proud of them.
So we've got out Lauren Scruggs becoming the first Black American woman to win an individual fencing medal when she won the silver in the foil competition last week. And this week, she won gold in the team competition, the team's first ever gold in that event. She's from Queens and a rising senior at Harvard.
We've been following Sha'Carri Richardson, the sprinter, for several years, ever since she was out as bisexual and barred from the Tokyo Olympics because she tested positive for marijuana on a test. Now, there's a real help to your sprinting, marijuana. Come on, performance-enhancing drug? I don't think so. But she recovered from that and became a world-class sprinter and won world championships and was hoping to win the 100-meter dash this year, but she came in second.
Got the silver medal,
Yeah.
and she's going to be in the relay race, and
Yeah,
still has
that's
a chance.
still coming up.
Out LGBTQ judo. Alice Belandi is an Olympic champion.
From Italy.
Won the gold medal in the 171-pound division. And we got a picture of her also at the end kissing her girlfriend.
She made a point of coming off the medal stand, going over to her girlfriend and giving her a big kiss.
And Saturday's mixed team judo medal round resulted in gold for Amandine Bouchard of France and bronze for out Rafaela Silva of Brazil. Medals for LGBTQ medal count. Anyway.
And we are everywhere, as you would expect, including with horses.
Equestrian.
Frederick Wandress
Yes.
of Germany won gold in the dressage team event.
But Denmark was second and Great Britain third, and they had LGBTQ people on their teams as well.
As one might expect.
And then the cycling legend Marianne Vos won the silver medal.
In the road race, she's amazing. Out lesbian. I must say, though, that the American who won, who came out of nowhere and just 2 kilometers from the end, just whoosh, took off. That's very unusual in road racing.
And before we get into the controversy over boxing, the out lesbian boxer Cindy Ngamba won the medal for the refugee team. They do have a refugee team, a separate team. It's the first such medal for someone from the refugee team.
She was originally from Cameroon. She has taken refuge in the UK, where she now lives, and won that medal.
And then we're always telling you about the right wing losing their minds over gender. And of course, that's it's become a dominant story at the Olympics over these boxers who are women. They were born women. Isn't this what you want in the right wing? You will have to go by your birth certificate. That's their birth certificate. These are cisgendered women, and then they're complaining that there was once this sort of Russian-dominated boxing commission.
The International Boxing Association, which is an illegitimate organization, which was totally under the thumb of the Russians and
virulently anti-LGBTQ,
and has been thrown out of world sports by the International Olympic Committee.
It's aligned with Russia's anti-LGBTQ policies,
right?
And they call the head of the IOC, Thomas Bach, one of IOC's chief sodomites. I mean, this is the way they talk. These are thugs. And yet, of course, the right wing are lining up behind them, from Fox News to Donald Trump to everybody.
J.D. Vance, J.K.
And they are torturing
Rowling,
these women.
Prime Minister Meloni of Italy, and Martina Navratilova.
No.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Yes.
Martina, do some research, for God's sakes.
Yes. Imani Khalif is also, there she is. She is a UN ambassador in her country of Algeria, where homosexuality is outlawed, and certainly transsexuality. And the other one is from Taiwan, and all of Taiwan is up in arms in anger at the right wing for doing this.
Everyone in Taiwan hates J.K. Rowling now, they say.
So, it's a Castor Semenya situation. They may have naturally high testosterone or whatever. So what?
And as we've always point out, some players have a genetic advantage because they're taller in basketball.
Or Michael Phelps has long arms.
We don't ban them.
And a star of the U.S. Rugby Sevens team, Ilona Maher, is being constantly attacked as a man.
Well,
and police are investigating death threats against Thomas Jolly, the artistic director of the Olympics, for his opening ceremony. And now he's got the closing ceremony coming up on Sunday. We'll see what that produces. I can't wait to see that.
Well, the French DJ Butch, Barbara Butch, who was attacked because she was in that tableau that everybody misinterpreted, not everybody, but people misinterpreted as the Last Supper. She's suing over this.
Because she's been called a pedo.
Yeah.
So we will end our Olympic coverage with something heartwarming and lovely. Tom Daley, the diver from Britain and husband of Dustin Lance Black, knitting his periodic Olympic sweater.
Hey everyone, it's Tom here, and I just wanted to do the reveal of my sweater that I've been making while being here in Paris. We've got Paris 24 on the front with the French and the British flags on the bottom, and then Daley on the back. I'm going to put it on and show you some of the details. Sort my hair out. Look at this. So, what we got here, got a TD on the sleeve, like so, and I've got number 5 for Olympics number 5 on the other sleeve. And this was done with Intarsia, so looking inside, it looks wild and crazy, but that's how you do colour work. And then the collar, it's just got like a nice little red and white stripe. I went with a red, white and blue theme. And then Daley on the back. It's nice and boxy fit, it's comfy. It's far too hot to be wearing this in Paris, but yeah, I thought I'd do a little reveal of all the things that I've been making. It's always so fun to be able to have this as a little bit of a memory from my time here in Paris, but I think it's cute. What do you think?
I think you're very cute, Tom. And he
5 Olympics, amazing.
Well, yes, he was there as a child, and he was asked if he's going to play in 2008 and in Los Angeles, and he said, "I don't know."
2028.
2028, and he said, "I don't know in what capacity. Anything can happen in 4 years. I'm an old man already. I'll be 34 then, so we'll see."
Well, let's look at another old man.
And by the way, Nikki Dahl, did we say?
Yes.
Yes, we did.
Okay. Peter Tatchell.
Okay, and Peter is been honored with a portrait at the National Portrait Gallery in London. There it is, showing him sporting a rainbow tie. This one painted by Sarah Jane Moon, now on display. Peter's now 72. He's experienced more than 300 violent assaults in the course of his human rights work, has been arrested more than 100 times, and is the subject of the Netflix documentary Hating Peter Tatchell. As for the painting, he says he loves the bold, expressive, joyful style, which reflects the spirit of his campaigns.
Originally from Australia, he moved from Melbourne to the UK at 19.
Yes.
And by the way, we talk about all the arguing over care for trans kids in the UK. There's now a waiting list of 5,700 kids for gender care in the UK as private clinics replace the NHS.
And that woman who wrote the study, which made them stop the puberty, Hilary Cass, she says, "Oh, this has significant implications for children and their families." You think?
2-year wait.
The World Health Organization is mulling an emergency committee meeting on Mpox as deadlier strains emerge in Africa, and they're trying to decide whether it should be declared an international health emergency. But you don't have to wait. Get your 2 Mpox shots. Oh. And then we want to pay tribute to the co-founder of the Young Women of Color HIV/AIDS Coalition in New York, Claire Simon. She's died.
Cancer.
Sorry?
Cancer.
Yeah, she began her career as a peer educator in high school and then worked at the AIDS and Adolescence Network, which we worked with, instrumental in the development of the HIV/AIDS education program, Teens Helping Each Other, peer education. She worked on the Stop AIDS Project in Baltimore, Love Heals at the Allison Gertz Foundation, on and on and on. What a great contribution she made.
She did and was beloved, and the tributes pouring in for her are amazing.
Yes.
All right, moving on to entertainment news in our final 4 minutes.
Yes. Well, I stumbled on the celebrity version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and out Sophia Bush was teaming with comedian Alex Edelman, and I was delighted to see who they were playing for.
Yes, what are the charities that you're playing for here tonight?
We're here today playing for GLAAD. They do a really amazing program called the Rainbow Library to make sure that kids in every state in our country get to read books that they are represented in, and they're fighting back against book bans at the same time. So we love books for all.
Wow, What a world in which we have to fight for books, huh?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's see how you can do here.
They won $250,000 for Glisten.
Fantastic.
So I saw the movie
So between the waiter in Kansas and the celebrities on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Glisten is getting support.
So I saw the movie Sebastian, set in London. It's about a bright, middle-class young gay writer, Max, daringly played by Rorid Malika, who does sex work on the side as Sebastian for a few extra bucks and has encounters with older Johns that range from enlightening to confrontational. The sex scenes are quite explicit, as are the conversations with the clients and his unsuspecting coworkers. But he decides to turn this into a novel, and that's sort of the core of the movie, of how he's doing this writing project based on this, and nobody knows that it's based on his real experiences. So I'd highly recommend it, directed by Miko Michaela. It's at the IFC in New York, and check your local listings.
And Chris Cooper tells me that House of the Dragon, finishing up its second season, got even more lesbianic at the end. As a new character, lesbian, asked a man, she said, I want to have your babies. And he said, oh, you want to, and she said, yes, I want you to F all my wives.
Wow.
So if that's what you're looking for, that's where it is.
I saw the play Job at the Helen Hayes Theater on Broadway. It's by Maxwell Friedrich and his Broadway debut. It's supposed to be a thriller, a two-hander. Therapist Lloyd, played by Peter Friedman of Succession, and patient Jane, Sidney Lemon, who starts off the play pointing a gun. This is how it starts, her pointing a gun at him. And so I'm not giving anything away, but it was kind of too funny in the beginning for something on very serious issues, and then it has a big twist. But I can't tell you what happened at the end because even I don't know, even though I stayed through the curtain call. So it's a mixed bag, 80 minutes.
Saturday Night Live is losing a couple of its LGBTQ players. Punky Johnson, out black lesbian, quit. She said she was asked to change her hair, stop working out, and be less buff. That's her on the right. She's been there since 2020. And Molly Kearney on the left was the first non-binary cast member at Saturday Night Live, and she's out too. She'd been there for a couple of years. But good news, Emily in Paris, we'll end with Paris, is coming back for its fourth season. First 5 episodes drop next week, August 15th. They take a little detour to Italy.
And I highly recommend the Elizabeth Taylor documentary.
Yeah, I saw it too.
It was pretty terrific. And
well,
of course,
she was
a lot of her friendships with gay men over the years.
She said.
And AIDS work.
Yes, they wouldn't come on.
And husbands.
All right, enough. More of this next week, but without Andy. He's going to be off for a week, and Marin will be here. See you then.
See you. Bye.